Of course, there have been many greats, and in South Florida, if you say, wow, who is the preeminent sports columnist, South Florida, maybe all time, eclipsing even Eddie Pope at this point, the great Eddie Pope.
He's definitely up there.
That kind of a country thing.
He may disagree with Pope, but
very likable man. I mean, there was nobody that had a bad thing to say about Eddie Pope, but this guy's right up there, knocking on the door of Eddie Pope type of fame and greatness. Dave Hyde of the South Florida Sun Sentinel joins us here on the program. David, how are you, my friend?
I think you just topped yourself for going overboard in my introduction. I love it. I love that.
Yeah, Pope, a little bit of hyperbole. Jim Murray was next on this, but he's an L.A. guy, so a lot of people here in South Florida wouldn't have gotten the reference. Although you could have plugged in. Jim Murray was brilliant, but he had kind of a formula column. See, and I admire the fact that you pick up the Sun Sentinel, or obviously people are reading it online right now. But, you take a look at any of your columns, and you don't know. It could be something completely different. Anything from, finding Jake Scott in Hawaii to the homeless guy that Bill Parcells was helping out to what's going on at the University of Miami, which Lubie wanted me to start there, David, with you today, because it was part of a wild coaching carousel where moves that even those that anticipate these kind of things for a living couldn't necessarily have foreseen. I don't know that I saw Lincoln Riley leaving his job there at Oklahoma and going to USC.
Kelly going to
I don't
LSU.
think anybody really was convinced that Brian Kelly was going to leave the sanctimony of Notre Dame and go to the SEC, and all of a sudden, miraculously, as we've been saying, develop a Cajun accent overnight. As if struck by some kind of voodoo stick as soon as he got, into the Baton Rouge area there. And of course, Mario Cristobal, that this was something that was speculated upon for a long time. Probably could have gotten the job when he was coaching at FIU. I forget, maybe they opted for Al Golden at that time. But then went on a pretty interesting and impressive uphill coaching odyssey that included a stint at Alabama, highly respected there. And then with Oregon, what did you make? Well, where did this money come from? Well, we wondered, Dave, if you had any inside information as to whether Nevin Shapiro had funded this move and had gotten out of jail somehow.
Have you looked at your wallet, Defo?
Yeah, exactly.
No, I did invest in some of those South American grocery stores, though, and in the beginning, the return was rather handsome.
There was a changeover of who's calling the shots at the University of Miami. From Board of Trustee members, you saw names that we hadn't seen, a Manny Cadre, a Jose Mas, and then the people from the university themselves, Rudy Fernandez, and kind of headlined what was going on. And the model, as I talked to Rudy Fernandez yesterday at Dan Radakovich's formal introduction, and he says it's all based on a delta curve. I love this when academia and football meet, the delta curve in economics, where the bottom line is this: they're playing before half full stadiums, and if they can get to 90%, all these moves will pay for themselves. It comes back to what it always does. Can Mario Cristobal win? Can Dan Radakovich help winning? And maybe can they build a stadium or find a stadium near their campus, which is, ultimately what they would love to do.
It's not possible, though, and I don't know if you had any experience along these lines trying to get a permit to do anything in Coral Gables.
I just love that idea.
It would take you 12 years if you had, Roy Black on the case or his law firm to get a permit to mow your lawn in Coral Gables. If it went against whatever, onerous city ordinance was in play at the time.
Yeah, I loved. There was the guy doing that, John Ruiz, who his family has pledged $500 million towards a stadium.
Nice.
Says they personally will fund it.
There you go.
But he on social media he was showing me for a helicopter. I'm going up to look for sites. Which I thought was great, tremendous. Let's go look for sites. Now, the most practical or connect the dots idea is. Inter Miami wants a stadium in Miami-Dade, and the Moss brothers own Inter Miami, obviously, and they're also connected with the power brokers at the University of Miami, and Miami wants to stay. So connect those two dots,
Okay.
And maybe something happens there.
Jorge No Mas, man, I love this guy, and they have that contaminated Mel Reese Park, right? That they could build a stadium on.
Yeah,
that
that's
we're
the
looking
question.
to,
Right,
except
right.
people are passing out just from the fumes, the toxic fumes that are emanating from there. After playing like 3 holes of golf, if they still have the golf course there. I used to play down there. Julio Frank, I didn't realize he was a president of the University of Miami. I mean, some of these past presidents, of course, Donna Shalala, when she was running the show, was very much in the spotlight. And even Tad Foote, to a certain degree, was in the spotlight. You probably wrote any number of articles. I believe you were around at the time when Jamie was saying that it's him. That's the only reason we're not winning championships anymore. Tad Foote, he had issues with Tad Foote, who seemed like a likable enough guy, seemed friendly enough on the sporting front. But Julio Frank, doesn't he sound like a left-handed specialist reliever for the Angels? You'd hear like Dick Enberg introducing, okay, here comes Julio Frank out of the bullpen. So, all right, so the authority is now in the hands of others.
He played in Double-A for a couple of years. He had the hard.
Yeah, they really the highest profile Julio Frank had was when Kirk Herbstreit called him out this fall. At least in the sports world, and they issued a really a 8-page comeback, full of academia and everything to Herbstreit and his importance for football. But the bottom line here is he saw value in football, investing in it this hiring cycle and sports, and they got. It was 2 home runs. For University of Miami, they got Mario Cristobal, who I thought it was a Hail Mario going after him.
Yeah.
Oregon is set up as good financially and to compete nationally as any program in the country. And so to go out and get him was that's 1 home run. And then you got the guy who changed around the business of Clemson and football, and he did it at Georgia Tech. He's been at LSU. He's go back at the very start of his career. He was at Miami, so he has some background here in Radakovich, and you put those two together, and it looks like it would work. It can work, and so we'll see if Miami football can get back to not where they were with Jimmy and Butch, but just relevancy nationally.
Well, and we often talk about it, and it's true, it's in evidence throughout sporting history, the cyclical nature of sports. And we've seen programs that were down very much at the top, so it's possible to resurrect that. People thought the dynamics, interesting what you said, Dave, and we have Dave Hyde, the South Florida Sun-Sentinel columnist with us here on Ion Channel on the Defo Show, that the dynamics, understanding the dynamics of the financial aspects, which have changed so dramatically and figure to do so even more, when I don't know if the colleges have embraced gambling to the extent that pro leagues that in the recent past, as in like maybe even last year, were appalled by the whole nature of like DraftKings, FanDuel, Caesars, and all of these various entities that are investing billions to help separate degenerates like me from their money. And, and clue you into, using their method of gambling or their system so that you can go ahead. And my grandson just figured out, Dave, that you have to win 52.38% of your games to beat a 10-cent line. This was his first grade math project. And when the colleges embrace this, the money will be enormous. And if they do, and you would imagine that they will eventually have to, just like the state of Florida will eventually have to have some kind of system in place because everybody else is cashing. So the importance of understanding that financial dynamic maybe exceeds, athletic instinct and the ability to spot good coaches and players and things of that nature.
Yeah, there are revenue streams that weren't available 10 years ago. And that's one of them. It'll be interesting to see who's the first college team to jump into it.
Alabama.
Just as it was interesting for Alabama. For years, none of the pros leagues allowed themselves to even look at Las Vegas. Now they're tripping over themselves.
Yeah, exactly.
Trying to get it back.
Exactly.
So it'll probably be similar in college. The question will be a conference really that'll go, and look, the SEC, well, why not them? Well, they're there already, right? I mean, why not just allow they'll go at it? So, but yeah, look at what Miami spent. $8 million a year for Mario Cristobal, $9 million to get him out of his Oregon contract, $2 million about with incentives for Radakovich. Then I'm not sure whether it was $4 or $8 million to buy Manny Diaz out of his contract. So, you start adding up. Those are the type of dollar figures that in past years we were told Miami just didn't have the money for. So their thinking changed, and like I said, there's just new people making a lot of the decisions inside now.
Interesting stuff. Great reporting, of course. And you were at the press conference yesterday with Radakovich being introduced, which kind of became a secondary consideration, but maybe just as important as the hiring of Mario Cristobal. Let's hope they make it back. It would sure be fun. You and I have discussed this before, Dave Hyde of the Sun Sentinel. Misery is often the most common, foundation of any kind of sports talk or sports conversation or sports writing. But ecstasy really does sell, and I don't mean the drug. It is kind of like the drug. When your teams are winning, it's much better for business than people would anticipate, because it seems like everybody just wants to fetch and complain about how dumb their favorite organization is. I witness the example here, if you have the video streaming there, Dave, of Mike Lubie Lubitz, who appears on screen right now, hates his own teams.
Well, how about the Boston radio stations have ratings of like 15? Because all four teams are pro teams are contending, and meanwhile you're right down with the Sun Sentinel circulation, right? We need the best thing to do for business is to have winning teams. I mean, I always laugh when people say, "Oh, you like to rip the teams when they're bad. You get to rip them. That's great for your business." No, that's really not good for business. What's good for business is championships. So, with a little
great.
Up and down mixed in.
Good stuff, Dave Hyde. Always a pleasure, my friend. You'll have to come back more often here.
Right,
I'm going to go ahead. I think I'm going to spring for the buck, because now you got me. Well, when you came up with that whole thing,
I know you
realized,
can do it. I know
Dave Hyde, it's all about the math.
You've been saving up for that big Sun Sentinel purchase. I know you can do it.
Yes, if I have any money left over after this move, the Mustang, as if Norman Schwarzkopf once again had like 16 more workers in this new pad we bought. So, in the middle of the, all I wanted was one piece of the parquet floor from the old Boston Garden in the middle of the new flooring she put in. And, I kind of wish I just bought the Boston Garden instead, because it would have been cheaper.
Oh, beautiful.
Storm windows. Oh, my God.
In the Green Bay Packers, one or the other.
Exactly.
Try not to buy a house where after the inspection you find out nothing works. Dave, always a pleasure. At least there's now some foundation there for let's hope everybody gets good, so there'll be reason for people to subscribe. I'm throwing the buck in for your cause there online to subscribe to the Sun Sentinel.
I love it.
Next time that special comes up, and we thank you so much for being with us here on the show. It's always a pleasure, my friend.
All right, Defo.
Be well, sir.
Very good, man.
The championship meet is right around the corner at Gulfstream Park. The only place for live racing, Gulfstream's action has never been hotter. Whether it's on the track, in the casino, or part of the dining and entertainment offered at the Village of Gulfstream Park. Currently running Thursday through Sunday, Gulfstream's racing package is the best in the country, with all the top horses and people in the game pointing towards another tremendous winter season. Check out the remodeled first floor casino, open 7 days and nights a week, along with the many special events and concerts happening at Gulfstream Park. You can place your wagers from anywhere at firstbet.com. Check the calendar of events at gulfstreampark.com.
I figured I'd, come in, ready to be punched.
Hot.
No more punching.
By someone.
We took care of that.
And not only get punched, but then hear 2 weeks later that you weren't satisfied with the punches, that you wanted to do that. So
I was going to go to the body first and then the head.
I will tell you this. I have to make a comment on Dave Hyde, who I love.
That was very interesting, wasn't it?
Well, I'm well aware of all that he had talked about, because I just well aware. I did not think that the Mario Cristobal thing was out of reach. I thought the Radakovich deal would be out of reach. I really did.
Nothing was out of reach.
I thought Mario had. I think Mario. I think there was. the way the season ended for Oregon and the way the season looked for Mario, I think the opportunity came at the perfect time. So I really did not see that as a Hail Mario, as he put it. I really did think it was that way for Radakovich. Despite the fact that the football program had a little bit of a down year, he was sitting pretty. He was sitting in a great situation in Clemson. I had talked to Dan a number of times when he was behind the desk at Clemson, and consider him a friend of mine. And just he was as happy as could be. And I thought what he did at Clemson was truly remarkable, because he not only made them relevant, obviously in football and in basketball, but he resurrected a bunch of programs with Title IX and made them relevant immediately. Immediately, whether it was tennis, track and field, women's softball, whatever it was, immediately they were relevant. So I really think the marriage of the two, along with the support of someone like the administration where Rudy Fernandez is leading the pack. Rudy is a remarkable man, Harvard grad, chief of staff of President Frank, and with him leading the way and the trustees that are involved, I just think it was a home run, and excited to see where we go from here. And while we can sit here, sports people will sit here and criticize, the academia, the Delta curve, they did the math, they figured it out, and they're not stupid. And I think it's I'm excited about where, as an alum, where we're headed with this program. And again, I think relevancy is going to be critical.
I love your enthusiasm for this, Tony. See, I knew it was going to be good because you even jumped in before the introduction.
I figured if I didn't, the chances of me speaking would be limited to nothing.
No, so. You got all the time in the world here. It's Tony Segreto Old School. But all right, this is Tony Segreto, a longtime broadcaster in South Florida, and iconic in many, many ways, including sports and news, and really did it all here. And he started when he was like 7 years old with Bernie Rosen, and his presence here on the show, here on Ion Channel, brought to you by Texas Roadhouse Restaurants and Catholic Health Services, attesting to the quality and integrity of this man. Now, we were just having some fun with that whole thing about what did you know and when did you know it. But what I found was interesting, that they even sent a columnist to cover something about that at the University of Miami. Maybe 5-6 years ago, the interest was starting to become more and more limited, and they would have covered some youth girls soccer game instead in that spot. Radakovich, it's interesting that you knew this guy. I'll just give you a quick story. That whole thing at Clemson years ago, I guess it was early 90s. I was traveling with the UM basketball team. I don't know what your experiences were like there. Mm-hmm. And Leonard Hamilton, I think, was a little naive, even though, you would think his background would include knowledge in this area. But he stops at a place, so we kind of got lost. The bus got lost from the airport to the hotel. So we're there with like 15 large black kids. And, a couple of guys and a black head coach. And he stops at like what looks like, a trailer park where there was a restaurant that said open, right? There was not much out there available. And he goes in there as the kids are exiting the bus and says to these like stone hillbillies, they looked like they were straight off the cliffs of Deliverance, and says, you guys know where we can get some soul food around here? And I just ran back to the bus. And that was Clemson, man. A very intimidating place. That ride into the the football stadium there is really weird, isn't it, Tony? You've taken that a few times, right?
Yeah. I just, I think what Radakovich was able to do at that university and put it in a position, who would have thought 10 years ago, not even that Clemson would be the team of record in the ACC. And they really are. They're the standard. They're the standard in which you set your goal for, right? And even when they were down this past year, you always had this feeling that the monster would raise its head and start another juggernaut. So I think him leaving Clemson is going to be, and then all the other guys, the assistant coaches that left there, is going to be interesting to see how Dabo recovers. But it's great for us to have Radakovich. I think he's going to do one heck of a job of revamping that entire athletic department. And I'm excited again as someone obviously involved in sports, but and I'm not blowing smoke here. I'm truly excited. I believe that Mario will come in and understand where we were in terms of how we were perceived and what we can take from that and apply it now, but still keep us in a very competitive, classy way. And I believe Mario will do that.
All right, Tony Segreto with us here. Old School with Tony Segreto on the Defo Show. See, I remember doing radio shows, and you were probably a part of some of those, and it might have been different from a TV coverage standpoint. You probably had to send crews, Tony, to stake out certain kids' households in town on National Letter of Intent Signing Day.
No question.
And you would want to get the reaction as the guy, I don't know that they had, the thing where they put the hat on back at that time, but, it was a big deal.
Yeah.
And it's still, across college football, a big deal. I don't know about what are your recollections. I do remember they literally would have people lining up. If we had this Max Emfinger guy on, who I believe was exposed eventually as like a Bernie Madoff type of fraud when it came to his actual knowledge of what was happening on the recruiting scene. But he was the first to dive into this, and he was the expert everybody had on.
Yeah.
And people would line up like during the Neil Rogers show, which was on at 10 a.m., to try and get a call in about a recruit or a recruiting situation at 6:00 at night on the Sports Talk show when it came on. People were just absolutely of rabid interest in this, or were we forcing it on them? It seemed like it was the hottest topic when you got to that February National Signing Day, and everybody was either elevated or crushed as a result of the way people judged their recruiting class.
Well, yeah, absolutely, and the recruiting classes then weren't scrutinized like they are today. They weren't listed as, okay, this is the number one recruiting class, but we covered it highly. I think now, and I sent actually Lubie a screenshot. Yeah, I interviewed Kirby Smart yesterday, and in fact, I'm interviewing Jim Harbaugh today. And one of the things
you've been hobnobbing with some really big shots, Tony. I mean, I love this. I know. You're so humble about it.
So it begs the question is, why am I?
Why are you with us?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it has to be, something related to capital, I would imagine.
Because you guys are my family. That's why. Because I love you guys.
You see the possibilities here. You see, and you know this Jack Namer. You know him to be an achiever. Yes.
Not only do I see the possibilities, I know what I come on here with deep faith that the possibilities are endless. Yeah, it's happening already. Yeah. But the point I wanted to bring out is Kirby and I talked about this yesterday. I think this early
Kirby
signing,
and I love this.
I think this early signing date right today, the 15th, has created a whole bunch of issues. I think it's great for the kid, for the athlete, for the young man, because he'll know where he's going. It's all settled. The angst, can go to the holidays. I think for the coaches, in some form or in a small way, it helps them because they know who they have. But on the other end, for the universities itself, look at what they have to do. They have to. Lubie's on the phone, but tell her you love her, Lubie. Tell her you love her.
I think he's going to tell Ed Garcia he loves him.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Anyway, so the point being, look at what the schools had to do. Look at what Brian Kelly had to do. Look at what Lincoln Riley had to do. And in a very abrupt, abrasive, not embraced at all way of leaving a school because they have to get to the early signing date and try to save recruits that they have been recruiting and try and get new recruits and maybe take ones from your old school. So I think it's caused some real issues, some in a positive way and some in a very negative way for these universities and for these programs.
All right, this is great because speaking of which, now really, Ed, did you get all 12 of Tony's tickets as he implies? Ed Garcia of Texas Roadhouse Restaurants joins us here. All 12? Yes. Wow, a dozen of them. That's sweet.
Good morning. Not just the 12, but we were able to get Ed a helmet from the game with logos of both teams on the helmet, right, Ed?
That is correct. Yes, I am looking forward to it. I already have the spot dusted off in the display case, ready to go.
Yeah. Well, I have to tell you, in speaking with our Orange Bowl reps yesterday, and especially with Eric Palms, our CEO, this game already has generated more excitement than we can remember in recent years.
Wow.
This is off the chart in demand for tickets. And Ed, I think you said you went online and they were $12,000. Is that what you last saw?
Oh yes, some of the great seats were about $12,000. The ones that I was looking at were about $2,000 per ticket. And that's just to get somewhat close. But yes, very, very, very pricey, and it is. I think this is going to be the game for the year.
I agree. I think this game right now, looking at it, would be the one that I don't even know if the national championship game could be as good as looking at the matchup, but I think it's going to be great. Meantime, you're going to be sitting there. You could be having some Texas Roadhouse grub. I'm assuming we're going to do a nice tailgate and do a little Texas Roadhouse grub. But one of the things I wanted to talk to you about is it is now my understanding, Ed, that we can get steaks sent to us around the country from Texas Roadhouse.
What?
That is correct. We have a online butcher shop. You just type in Texas Roadhouse Butcher Shop into Google, and you can go ahead and get the exact same ribeyes, fillets, sirloin sent to your house. They come packed in dry ice, ready to rock and roll. So if you're just kind of looking for yourself or even a last-second gift, I mean, these are absolutely fantastic, great quality product. I just got 4 ribeyes not too long ago, had the parents over for dinner, and, I mean, it was just absolutely awesome. Was able to sit back, crack a beer, and turn on the grill in the backyard, enjoy some steaks, and watch some football the other day while eating some really great quality Texas Roadhouse steaks that are also still hand-cut.
So all you have to do is, and what again is that website? Texas Roadhouse Butcher Shop? It's
actually trbutchershop.com, and look it up. It'll pop up on Google. It's one of the top hits, and it is doing extremely, extremely well. I think what's really cool, even myself, there was just a couple of last second things I could avoid going to the store. I sent a couple people some of these steaks, and great price, great quality. And it's just something that is absolutely unique and that people will enjoy.
I'm all over that, right, Defo?
Oh, great stuff. I mean, you can't beat it.
Recently, we realized it's not just hurricane season that can hurt us. Any time of year, things can happen to your home or business. And the insurance company can be your friend, but they also can be your enemy. Horizon Public Adjusters, Justina Testa, are here for you to help this process go so much easier. Before you call the insurance company, call Horizon Public Adjusters and Justina Testa at 954-809-8752. Would you go into court without an attorney? So why would you go up against an insurance company without Horizon Public Adjusters and Justina Testa? 7 to 10 times more money recovered with a public adjuster than if you went on your own. If there's no recovery, there's no fee. Give them a call at 954-809-8752. Why go up against insurance companies alone when you can have Horizon Public Adjusters and Justina Testa on your side?